Did you notice that the Seahawks have built the perfect modern defense? So, how have they done it? Let's dig into it. In its first season under Mike Macdonald in 2024, it took some time for the Seahawks to work through their issues as a defense. The system that Macdonald brought with him from Baltimore was rooted in many of the defensive principles that have come to define the best defenses of today's NFL. The Ravens would often align with two high safeties before the snap in order to both limit explosive plays and create hesitation from opposing quarterbacks as they tried to discern what coverages they might be getting. The problem was that teams were gashing those looks against the run whenever they played Seattle. Over the first half of last season, the Seahawks ranked 31st in defensive success rate out of two high shells. One way to combat that problem is to counter with more linebackers and heavier bodies on defense. The problem is that whenever Seattle tried that last year, they got gashed through the air. Through week 9 of last year, Macdonald was playing whack-a-mole with his team's faults without being able to land on a solution. So, what changed? A midseason trade for linebacker Ernest Jones was Seattle's first big step in solving its defensive problems, and the Seahawks actually finished as an above-average run defense against two high looks over its final 8 games last year. But it took until the 2025 season for Macdonald and his team to fully solve the riddle of how to play with the defensive structure he prefers with none of the vulnerabilities. This year, the Seahawks aren't just getting by playing their way, they're dominating with it. Let's start with those same two high light box run issues Seattle was having last season. Only the Eagles have faced more runs out of two high looks this year than Seattle, and the Seahawks have been arguably the best team in the NFL at defending the run out of those looks. Seattle's team ranks second in both success rate and EPA per play against the run when playing from two high shells, and no defense in the league has created more negative value for opposing offenses out of those alignments. The Seahawks thrive from those looks in several ways, including different front alignments and run stunts, but the foundation of their success is that they've got some absolute ass kickers up front. When you watch Seattle defend the run, there isn't just one guy who sticks out. Check out this run stuff from the Seahawks win over the Colts. Second-year defensive tackle Byron Murphy, whose massive leap this season has been a huge factor in Seattle's success, anchors down against this double team at the point of attack, allowing zero movement from the offensive line. As he does, both Boye Mafe and Drake Thomas meet their respective pullers with authority and collapse the space Indies try to create in the C-gap. The depth across the board for Seattle's defense is staggering, especially up front. The Seahawks go about 7 deep along their defensive line with guys who consistently win at the point of attack. Look at this play from the first game against the Rams this season. Watch how Uchenna Nwosu stands up this tight end on this downhill run, almost perfectly in sync with Leonard Williams stonewalling the left guard. This is life against the Seahawks defense. Remember that other problem Seattle had in 2024? Defending the pass out of its base looks? Well, Seattle has figured that one out with its own clever solution: to just never play base defense. This season, the Seahawks have played just 45 snaps of base defense outside of red zone or backed up situations. For context, the next closest team is at 71, and the league average is 243. Seattle has essentially removed base defense from its playbook within the normal rhythm of a game, and they've been able to get away with it thanks to one of the season's most important draft picks. In the second round of the 2025 draft, Seattle traded a third-round pick to move up 17 spots to take South Carolina safety Nick Emenwari. An outlandish athlete, Emenwari was seen as a player who could potentially play all over Mike Macdonald's defense, similar to the way he used Kyle Hamilton during his time with the Ravens. But Seattle's plan for the rookie was much more streamlined and specific. Rather than have Emenwari bounce between safety and nickel, the Seahawks have exclusively used him closer to the line of scrimmage as a rookie, and his play from that spot has been a skeleton key that's helped unlock Seattle's entire plan. At 6'3", 220 pounds, Emenwari is the ideal piece that allows Macdonald to live in the nickel world. He's big enough to hold up against the run, including in situations where Seattle uses him on the edge. He's athletic enough to hold up in coverage across multiple different deployments, and he's also become an effective blitzer when asked. The best designed NFL offenses, including the one in Macdonald's own building, have done a tremendous job this season of using personnel to dictate the game to opposing defenses. If teams match our heavy sets with more linebackers, we're going to sling it all over the yard. If they go light, we're going to mash them on the ground. By playing nickel to everything, Macdonald has been able to flip the script. No one dictates anything to the Seattle defense. They're the ones in control. That feeling extends to watching this team defend the pass. Macdonald is billed as one of these defensive mad scientists, but when you watch the way Seattle plays, this isn't Brian Flores or Steve Spagnuolo sending face melter blitzes or having their DBs do backflips to disguise coverage. From their preferred two high structures, Seattle plays almost 80% zone defense, spread across a variety of different coverages, playing split safety at an above-average rate. Similar to the Vic Fangio principles that have become so popular around the league in recent years, Seattle gives away very little before the snap and uses those looks to make things just a bit harder for quarterbacks to gather information before the play begins. After it does, you see why this team is so damn dangerous. Sometimes football doesn't need to be complicated. The Seahawks defense is filled with good players at nearly every position that are extremely well coached when it comes to individual techniques and how they're supposed to play individual coverages. Look at this play from Seattle's win over Washington earlier this year. On 3rd and 4, the Seahawks are aligned in an overload or boss front with a too-high structure behind it. At the snap, they rotate into cover 3, and the overload front creates multiple one-on-ones along the defensive line. The routes are well matched on the back end, and after some initial pressure from Leonard Williams, Jarran Reed and Uchenna Nwosu get home for the sack. The area where Macdonald's creativity really does shine through is with some of Seattle's pressure packages. The Seahawks don't blitz a ton, but when they do, it can be lethal for opposing offenses. Seattle ranks 4th in pressure rate when blitzing this year, while leading the league in defensive success rate and EPA per dropback. The Seahawks' negative 0.4 EPA per dropback when blitzing is the second best mark in the NFL in the past 5 years, just ahead of the 2023 Ravens, which isn't a coincidence. Macdonald may not be a high-volume blitzer, but his understanding for how to devise those pressures and when to call them may be the best in the league. Seattle will often allow its corners to blitz condensed formations on their own accord, terrorizing teams from the Shanahan-McVay tree on early downs. He'll use 5-man pressures to create one-on-ones for his talented front four and crumble the pocket. He'll send a safety off the roof with perfect timing to nuke a big 3rd down. The feel Macdonald has for how and when to send those pressures is yet another example of what's made Seattle the ideal defense for today's NFL. As so many defenses around the league react to what opposing offenses do to them, Seattle is never on the back foot. It plays with the personnel it wants, from the alignments it wants, in the situations it wants. Talented, well-coached, and in command is one hell of a way to live, and it's turned this unit into one that could win another Super Bowl for Seattle. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, check out some of the other breakdowns from this season. And if there's anything you'd like us to cover over the rest of the playoffs, let us know in the comments.